After the critical and commercial success of Batman Arkham City, Rocksteady began development of the next Arkham game. However, this time the scope was bigger than ever, and it was clear the game needed some more time to make it extra special. So while Rocksteady chipped away at the final Arkham game, Warner Bros. Montreal created Batman Arkham Origins. At launch, the game received a notable amount of criticism due to its lack of innovation and other issues. But now, over a decade later, the popular opinion of the game is that it's underrated. But ever since I first played the game in winter of 2022, I've been wondering to myself, is Batman Arkham Origins actually underrated?
Here we've reached the black sheep of this franchise. While these days most people like this one, back when it released, this game really took in a beating.
I guess it's the new Arkham game, people expected more. And while, yes, it isn't a huge step up from City, I still think it's pretty damn good. But enough yammering, it's time to dive into the story. The story is set on Christmas Eve during Bruce's second year as Batman, making this a less experienced, younger, angrier Bruce. You can tell from the stubble. The opening cutscene is awesome, as we see news clips of a ruder Bruce Wayne.
You can't expect me to believe that Gotham's most eligible bachelor is spending another Christmas alone.
You just ran out of time.
And Commissioner Gordon, not yet a commissioner at this point, denying the existence of Batman. Bruce then hears of a breakout at Blackgate prison, led by Roman Sionis, also known as Black Mask. So naturally, Bruce suits up and heads out, ignoring Alfred. Batman arrives and works his way through Blackgate to rescue Commissioner Loeb. He's too late though, as Roman and his crew lock Loeb in a gas chamber, but not before Loeb reveals he's been doing favors for Roman, establishing the corruption of the GCPD at this point in time.
Corrupt police? Who could have seen that coming?
Batman continues to chase after Roman and makes it outside where he takes on Killer Croc. After defeating him, Croc reveals that Roman has hired assassins to kill Batman, and then Batman escapes from the GCPD. Bruce heads back to the Batcave and checks out a hard drive he stole from a drone, which proves what Croc said true. Roman hired a bunch of assassins to take out Batman. Looking to catch Roman, Batman heads out in search of Penguin since he's been tracking Roman. After interrogating some of his goons, Batman heads to the Penguin's hideout, which is aboard a boat called the Final Offer. Batman works his way through the boat before coming face to face with another assassin, the Electrocutioner, and Batman takes him out in a single kick. Following that, Batman continues his way through the ship, making his way to Penguin's office, and once inside, he interrogates Penguin, who tells him there was a murder at Lacey Towers. During the interrogation though, he's interrupted by another assassin, Deathstroke. After defeating him, Batman heads to Lacey Towers, and Alfred says there are reports that Roman is dead. There, he analyzes the crime scene and figures out what happened, but he needs to check the National Criminal Database in order to figure out who all was involved. So he heads to the GCPD and goes to the server room where he meets Barbara Gordon for the first time. She tells him that he can hack into the server remotely down in the sewers, so he heads there next. While leaving the GCPD building, he runs into Gordon and they have a really great moment together.
Listen, I'm on your side.
My side? My side works within the law. My side doesn't leave suspects with broken bones and missing teeth. We've earned Gotham's respect.
If that were true, I wouldn't believe you.
Batman then takes out some more officers and escapes the building. After hacking down there, he's able to figure out what happened at Lacey Towers. Roman sent his girl there where she was attacked. He then sent a decoy since he knew someone was waiting for him there, and while the decoy distracted the shooter, Roman tried to get the jump on him. Roman was unsuccessful though and was taken by the shooter, also being forced to shoot his own girl. Now, who could the shooter be? Well, he goes by
The Joker.
Oh my gosh! The Joker! He's from that one 2019 film! The really depressing one? The one that shows the dark side of humanity? Stuber.
Batman then heads to Gotham Merchants Bank, which Roman owns. Inside the vault, Batman finally comes face to face with Black Mask, who then reveals the real Black Mask and beats him before revealing his true face. It turns out Roman did hire assassins, but Joker took over the operation. Joker escapes with a bunch of money and Roman and tries to blow up Batman, which of course fails. Batman then deals with Joker's thugs, and one of them tells him that Joker's taken over Roman's steel mill. Alfred tries to get Batman to retire for the night and let the GCPD handle it, but Batman of course refuses. Inside the steel mill, Batman finds Roman and is then attacked by another assassin, Copperhead, who poisons him. This leads to some hallucinations of Batman being shunned by Alfred and some victims from that night, which is great character building for him. Batman takes on Copperhead and gets a cure and defeats her, and then he heads to the Gotham Royal Hotel, where Joker is currently stationed. Batman climbs his way up the tower and comes face to face with Bane and the Joker, who blows up a damn building. Batman tries to attack Joker, but Bane stops him and gets into a fight with him. Of course, Batman ultimately wins and Bane escapes, but not before Batman can stick a tracker on him. Bane then fires a rocket at Joker, which knocks him off the building, and Batman dives to rescue him. Joker is so confused by Batman's actions, and he kills his own men, then turns the gun on himself, which Batman saves him from as well. The GCPD then shows up and Batman escapes, leaving the Joker in their hands. Even the police don't understand why Batman saved Joker, and they think Batman is working with him.
Where'd he go? Huh? The Bat. The partner. My partner? Who else would jump off a building to save your sorry ass? You know, officer.
I was wondering the same thing myself.
At Blackgate, Joker meets Harleen Quinzel, who does a psychological evaluation on him. Joker then has a mental episode as he gains an obsession with Batman. Joker tells Harleen he's met someone he understands, he relates to, and of course Harleen thinks it's about herself as her relationship with the Joker also blossoms. Meanwhile, Batman heads back to the Batcave to track Bane as he has visions himself. After connecting back to reality, Alfred wants Bruce to finally retire for the night, but Batman still wants to catch Bane. Alfred still tries to knock some sense into Bruce, but Bruce still won't have it. As Bruce tries to leave, Alfred has an amazing moment with Bruce where he once again tries to get Bruce to stay, but the less experienced, hot-headed Bruce still won't hear any of it. Batman heads to the GCPD morgue to check the body that may be connected with Bane. The body is connected to Titan, the chemical formula from Asylum that was the whole catalyst for the story.
Because of course it had to be mentioned. I mean, this is a prequel, you know.
And Batman then makes his way to Bane's hideout where he discovers the Titan. But then, oh no, another assassin, Firefly, is attacking a bridge, so Batman goes there to stop him. Batman runs into Gordon and warns Gordon to not send any cops since Firefly will blow up the bridge if Gordon does. Batman then takes on Firefly, taking down yet another assassin. Batman and Gordon have a short moment together where Gordon starts to show some respect for Batman. Batman then heads back to the Batcave and tries to talk to Alfred, but Bane broke in and hurt Alfred. Batman finds Alfred and has a great heart-to-heart with him. Bruce feels ashamed for letting everything that happened that night happen. Alfred once again encourages Bruce to work with Gordon, and with Joker starting a riot at Blackgate, Batman heads there to assist Gordon. Batman makes his way through the prison once again, and in the central chamber, Joker has the warden captured, and Joker highlights how much bad he's done that night. Joker then decides to push Batman to his limits by trying to force him to kill. Either Batman kills Bane, or Batman doesn't kill Bane, which powers an electric chair to kill Joker. So Batman fights Bane once again, and Gordon shows up, saving Warden Joseph. Joker then holds Jim to put his life on the line as well, and Batman comes up with a plan to overcome Joker's challenge. Batman temporarily stops Bane's heart so the chair won't go off, and Joker then turns his gun on the Warden, but Gordon takes a bullet for him. Joker then runs off to cause more anarchy, and Batman tries to team up with Gordon. Gordon shames Batman for killing Bane, but Batman revealed he didn't actually kill him, and then Gordon decides to help. Batman revives Bane, who then takes some Titan, and Batman has to stop him again. After doing so, Batman then chases after Joker with Gordon's help and comes face to face with him in the chapel. Batman then reveals that he didn't actually kill Bane and then gives Joker a beating. Joker still tries to get Batman to relate to him, but Batman still isn't a fool and finally knocking him out. Batman then reunites with Gordon, who once again wants to arrest Batman, but he escapes into the night once again. Other officers are curious how Gordon caught Joker, which Gordon admits he had help. Gordon then has a monologue where he reflects on how maybe Batman is a good thing for Gotham.
That took a minute.
I love the story of Arkham Origins so damn much. It's such a good one. Being a prequel, there's a lot this has to set up, and it does a wonderful job. I love how distant Bruce is at the start, still so adamant on working alone against the police, and as the game goes on, working with them more. Seeing Batman's relationship with Gordon, Barbara, and Joker blossom is fascinating. I love the scenes of Batman and Gordon together. You can tell regardless of how much shit Gordon talked on Batman, Batman never held anything against Gordon. And of course, watching them team up to stop Joker in the end was beautiful. It was also cool seeing Barbara and how she always liked Batman and helped him from very early points. And of course, Batman and the Joker. Seeing Joker's obsession with Batman begin was fascinating. The part where you dive into his psyche and you hear how he's baffled by Batman's actions and started to relate to him is so good. And literally anything he said in the chapel. And of course, Alfred. That moment right before Bruce leaves to go to the morgue, it's another one of my all-time favorite Batman moments.
Master Bruce, stop! Master Bruce! Bruce, I will not in good conscience allow you to go. You're outmatched by these assassins.
What?
You're not some hardened vigilante. You're a young man with a trust fund and too much anger. You're in over your head, and I don't want this to be your end.
The way Bruce refused to stand down until the job was done was such great characterization for him, and even when he briefly gave up, it didn't feel out of character. It was a moment where he realized by doing this, he puts Alfred in danger and even the rest of the people he works with, which we'll of course see expanded upon in the next game. Overall, I love Origins story so much. Some criticize it for quote-unquote jumping around so much, but I think that's a bit of a silly criticism. Sure, the game starts with the premise that Black Mask hired assassins to kill Batman, but it sticks with that story for most of the game. Batman tries to take down Roman while facing other assassins. Of course, Joker takes over the operation and still has the assassins go after Batman, but it all changes after the hotel. Prior to the hotel, Joker wanted Batman dead, but after realizing how weird Batman's morals are, he grew a fascination with Batman and didn't want to kill him, but rather mess with him. And even then, Firefly still goes after Batman. It's not like the assassins disappear. Joker's relationship with Batman just changes. And speaking of Batman and Joker changing, you can't talk about Origins without bringing up the news voice actors. Since this was a prequel, they wanted to cast younger sounding actors to portray these younger takes on these characters. So bring in Roger Craig Smith as Batman and Troy Baker as the Joker. Prior to this, Roger Craig Smith played Ezio Auditore in Assassin's Creed and Chris Redfield in Resident Evil 6, so it's about time he was in a good game. As the younger Batman, I think he does a good job. You can occasionally hear a bit of Conroy in his voice, but it's a little different for the most part, which I really like. He does sound like a younger, less experienced, angrier Batman, which is exactly what he's supposed to sound like. And he has some absolutely incredible moments, like this moment with Alfred.
Alfred, who do you see when you look at me? The boy whose shoes you used to tie every morning? The teenager you drove to his first date? While you are here every night, I am out there. The only thing between the innocent and the predator. No, not maybe. I am. When the mugger or the thief stops to think twice, that is fear. That is what I am. That is why they hired assassins, because I am the reason the criminals breathe easier when the sun rises. So no, Alfred, I am not in over my head. Tonight will not be my end, but it will be theirs.
Overall, I think he did a good job in this one. And then there's Troy Baker as the Joker, taking over the role from Mark Hamill, and Troy does an incredible job in the role. He does a really good job invoking the same vibe Hamill does without just doing an impression of him. Sometimes he gets so close to sounding like Hamill, it's scary. Troy has a ton of experience. He played Batman in the LEGO games and direct-to-video movies, and he played Robin and Two-Face in Arkham City. He absolutely knocked it out of the park with Joker here, as did Roger as Batman. Sure, they may not be on par with Conroy and Hamill, but let's be real. Nobody is, and that doesn't mean these two are bad. Well, with the story out of the way, before I dive into gameplay, a little recount of my personal history. I bought this game in November of 2022, but I didn't let myself start it until I finished everything I wanted to accomplish that year. And I finished that stuff on December 22nd, so that night I popped in the game, and over the next 2 days I made my way through it and I fell in love. I absolutely adored the experience, and playing it on the days building up to Christmas was so perfect. It just created an atmosphere like no other, and I look back at my first playthrough of this game with so much fondness. And almost 2 years later, my opinion of this game hasn't changed a bit. It's still incredible. Gameplay wise, it's literally Arkham City again. It feels just like Arkham City, but in what world is that a bad thing? This game doesn't evolve a whole lot from City. You have many of the same mechanics, gadgets, combat, and predator scenarios. It feels like another Arkham City, and that is why this game was so criticized at launch. City was a huge step up from Asylum, yet Origins was on par with City. It wouldn't be until Arkham Knight that City was upped, and so I do kind of understand why Origin received some flack at release. It wasn't the big next step for the series. But considering it was a prequel developed by a different studio, I think it was unfair to expect it to be. This was a stopgap game, a game to fill in the 4-year gap between City and Night. And so while yes, it didn't massively improve on City, so it's still a damn good game in its own right. It plays like City, and City plays like Raising Cane's chicken tenders.
Which is to say, fucking amazing.
It's another guided Metroidvania with Batman traversing Gotham City stopping more iconic foes. This time around, the open world is a bit more open. It doesn't have the awkward horseshoe shape of City's world. The only kind of tedious thing is going from one island to another. You have to cross this bridge, which can be a bit tedious, but you only end up having to do this a few times throughout the game. We're now in normal Gotham City, and to explain the lack of normal citizens out and about, the opening mentions a weather storm.
Police and emergency services are urging Gotham residents to stay off the roads and in their homes tonight in light of the severe winter storm.
Which, sure, that's the reason for everyone to be inside. It is cool to now explore a more normal Gotham City. The combat of course returns from City and is still good. Counter and hit, what more is there to say? Predator sections as well, nothing really to add. So I guess it's time to talk about the bosses, which are incredible here. First off is Killer Croc, who's pretty simple. Dodge his attacks, stun him, and perform a beatdown. Rinse and repeat. Electrocutioner is of course hilariously easy. He acts really badass in the cutscene, but of course the fight itself ends with a single hit. It's a ton of fun the first time you fight him. You expect a tough fight against this electrical based enemy, but he just goes down in a single hit. Then there's Deathstroke, who is probably the best boss in the whole series. He puts up a tough fight that requires you to counter a lot. You can really only get hits in on him after countering, but if you counter too early, he'll hit you. He occasionally also leaps at you from the air and you have to rapidly counter, followed by you finally giving him a beatdown. Halfway through you knock off his mask, which means shit gets serious. He'll occasionally use a tool to attach gas tanks to you and you have to counter to throw them back at him. As the fight goes on, you break his staff and he switches to using a sword, which is even harder to counter. It's just such a badass fight that's super cinematic and feels so good to properly complete. Copperhead takes place when you're poisoned, so you're trying to synthesize a cure while the visions are going on. The fight itself is similar to, say, Ra's al Ghul's fight from City, where she spawns clones and you have to find the real one. Towards the end of the fight, Alfred sends the cure, Batman takes it, and is then easily able to conquer Copperhead. Then the first Bane fight, which is similar to Croc's. Dodge then beatdown. He starts each part with his venom activated, so you have to do the beatdown to deactivate his venom. Then Batman pulls at the tubes and is able to actually deal damage to him. The fight starts inside, but after defeating his first phase, the fight moves to a balcony. It continues with Bane now charging at Batman for a bit before devolving back down into the stun and beatdown. It can be a pretty tough fight, especially once goons join the fun. Firefly is pretty decent. You throw glue grenades and batarangs at him to do damage while dodging his fire blasts. Occasionally he gets low enough to grapple him and pull him towards you to get a good hit on him. Just repeat a few times and he's down. A rematch against Bane and Blackgate, which is literally the same as the hotel fight, but then the final boss is Titan Bane, who's a bit like Mr. Freeze in Arkham City. You have to take it from a stealth approach and get the jump on him. It follows the series tradition of final boss equals big, but it's definitely the best final boss of the series so far. Origins easily has the best fights of the entire series. The worst fight here is pretty good, and the best fight here is the best in the series. But there are of course other bosses you can face, a part of the game's many side quests. There are a bunch here: Riddler data boxes replacing trophies, Penguin's weapon stashes, and catching the other assassins. Like per usual, I don't really go after these since there isn't much incentive to, but it's always cool to have them. Besides that, there's of course challenge mode as always, but I'd consider this one to be a downgrade from Cities. Cities let you play as 4 different characters, with this only allowing you to play as Batman, which is kinda lame in comparison. Arkham Origins is an excellent game, and an excellent Arkham game.
But that doesn't do any damage to my thoughts of the rest of this game, which is that it is sublime.
Sure, it's not a big step up from City, but I'd argue it's pretty much on par with City. It has a sublime story, excellent gameplay, and great bosses, everything that made City great. If you were to look at this as the next big Arkham game, it falls flat. But if you view it at what it is, a prequel meant to fill the gap between 2 of the main games, it's not hard to appreciate this game.
I love this game, but it's time to circle back to the question I asked a while ago. Is Batman Arkham Origins actually underrated? To which I say, no.
Now maybe at launch I'd consider this game underrated, but in the current day, I wouldn't consider this game underrated as everyone likes to say it is. And that's the main thing I want to reiterate. Everyone says Origins is underrated, but everyone seems to agree that while it's not a step forward from City, it's nowhere near being a bad game. And if everyone, or at least most people, share that opinion, I wouldn't consider the game underrated. And it's hard to find someone who actively dislikes Origins, but it's not hard to find someone who simply likes it. Because of that, I roll my eyes a bit when people say Origins is underrated. Maybe back then it was, but these days it's a beloved entry in the series. Sure, it may not be up to snuff with others in many ways, but it's still an absolutely sublime game and could quite possibly be my favorite game in the series.
And with that, I have one more Arkham game to look at: Arkham Knight, which interestingly enough I've never played before. So tune in next time where I'll be playing Arkham Knight for the first time. I wonder if I'll like it.